Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I'm KP, Nick is here in attendance with me again because today we're going to be going through our Raw recap from last night's episode of Raw. This is the 3rd of November edition, and this just comes off the back of Saturday night's main event, which took place a couple of nights prior to this show. So, how about we go into everything that took place across the course of the night, break everything down, and discuss all the happenings. So, first and foremost, we would kick things off with the brand new World Heavyweight Champion himself, the best in the world. CM Punk would come on down to the ring, and he would open the show. So Punk would start basically by thanking people. He'd thank AJ Lee. Then he'd go on to thank the WWE Universe, or as he calls them, the CM Punk fans. He'd go on to thank Jey Uso as well for the fight on at Saturday night's main event. And I'll bring up the dynamic that they might not be friends going forward, which is absolutely fine for Punk. He understands that. He then turns his attention to that of CM Punk, to that of Seth Rollins, saying that there's no more snake in the grass with a Money in the Bank briefcase, ready to cash in on himself. He then proceeds to swing the title around in typical Seth Rollins fashion, like he would iconically do. CM Punk then acknowledges that he's a target and that he does have several people looking to go after him, before saying that he wants to test himself against the best in the company. The likes of AJ Styles that he brings up, with quite a lot of passion there with what he's saying. He then also brings up other names such as Bron Breakker, Bronson Reed of the Vision, Dominic Mysterio, JD McDonough, Finn Balor, Sheamus, and even John Cena himself. So he's basically aware that there are a lot of names that could potentially come after him, and on their day could be a bit of a problem for CM Punk in terms of retaining his newly won championship. He calls for anyone who has earned, or deserved a title shot to come and get some, and that would then see Logan Paul come down to the ring. And this is the first time we've seen Logan in quite some time. I don't actually remember the last time we saw him. He would come on down to the ring. Punk would then attempt to convince Logan Paul to either go to SmackDown and challenge for Ilya Dragunov for the United States Championship and the Open Challenges that he's been having, or just get away from the situation. Anybody but Logan Paul basically is what CM Punk is trying to say here. Logan starts saying how he's earned the title shot. He looks back to WrestleMania where he defeated AJ Styles. And then we have the interruption of Paul Heyman alongside Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. They then make their way down towards the ring. Heyman addresses Logan as a bitch without an owner, and how basically he, the front of the line belongs to Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker. Heyman tells Logan that he's in the wrong place, the wrong time, and that he should get to stepping right now. And he even signals to do so. Logan Paul says, you snooze, you lose. I got here first. I'm the one that's going to be challenging for the championship. You should have got here quicker. Breakker then takes control of the mic. He basically says how they've had to wait patiently for the last 2 weeks, but now they're not waiting any longer. They're done waiting. They are going to rip them apart like a dog, is what Breakker would say. That then brings Punk back into the conversation. He tells Logan to either get out of the ring or fight alongside him. Logan chooses to get out of the ring. He chooses to go away from the situation. Once he's chosen that, Bron and Bronson get into the ring, lay out CM Punk, and then that sort of inspires Logan Paul to look back and sort of get crossed between two minds. Logan eventually chooses to get into the ring to help CM Punk, and then he would also get beat down by the Vision. He would suffer a tsunami from Bronson Reed, and then Punk gets back into the ring, brings a steel chair with him, and fends off a Vision to end the segment. But in terms of a really sort of jam-packed opening segment, there's had quite a lot going on. Logan Paul, CM Punk, The Vision, promo, Paul Heyman. There's just a lot of situations to discuss here, but interested to see what you made of this opening segment, Nick, a little bit later on, because we will go into our first matchup of the show straight after this, and that would see Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez taking on the team of Nikki Bella and Stephanie Vicaire. So this would be a pretty standard tag team match of the women's division. I quite enjoyed it, to be fair. I thought it was a nice flow to it. And Judgment Day getting the upper hand here and actually getting a victory over Nikki and Steph. And that'll come in way of Raquel Rodriguez playing interference on the outside once Roxanne Perez sort of knocks Nikki Bella onto the ropes. Raquel had just dropped down Stephanie Vicaire face first onto the apron moments before this. And with Nikki Bella onto the ropes, Raquel Rodriguez hits a right hand to the face of Nikki Bella, sends her sort of bouncing backwards. Roxy takes advantage, hits a pop rocks, and that would be enough to get the victory. So Raquel Rodriguez, she would later on in the night basically be announced as the new number one contender for the Women's World Championship, and that match will be taking place next week as a result of what happened here in this contest. So Raquel sort of booming at the moment. Raquel Rodriguez, back in the title picture. It's nice to see that because it's been a long time since we had that sort of situation. And Roxanne Perez getting another victory here was certainly quite interesting as well, because she has picked up a bit of form recently. Nikki Bella, though, on the other hand, taking another loss, which is quite interesting. That does play into a little bit of a way later on in the night where she's sort of doubting herself. But yeah, just taking another loss with Nikki Bella. I think that it is every single match she's been in that, since she's come back, she has taken a pinfall loss. It's quite surprising, quite interesting, that the dynamic there. But yeah, Stephanie Vaquer doesn't really lose anything here. She may have been on the losing side of the matchup, but she wasn't pinned, and it's an opportunity to make Raquel Rodriguez look pretty strong on the outside, which I think was mission accomplished. So not a bad matchup here. I quite enjoyed it for what it was. We would then go into our next match of the show, which is a one-on-one contest that would have Penta go up against El Grande Americano. And this was really fun. I enjoyed this one. Two luchadors going at it, just high pace, high energy. Yeah, just a lot of fun. Just really, really just enjoyed how the matchup just played out and flowed. We get to a point in the end where Bravo interferes. He gets ejected from ringside before Rayo then passes the metal plate to El Grande Americano whilst all this little interference and the distraction for the referee is taking place. Penta takes control once again, with Rayo then holding Penta on the turnbuckles before getting ejected himself. Penta kicks El Grande Americano, who's looking for a headbutt, so naturally speaking, he gets kicked in the head. That metal plate's probably going to do a little bit of damage to himself. Then he suffers a Mexican destroyer straight afterwards, and that'll see Penta getting the 1-2-3. So, this was a pretty jam-packed first half of Raw, especially that opening segment. There was so much going on. So I want to hear what you think of the opening stuff there, Nick. Then also these couple of matches that we did have, the women's tag team match up there, with Raquel, shooting her shot for the Women's World Championship. Could be possibly coming up next week as early as that. And then, Penta and El Grande Americano with the Los Americanos not really playing in favor for El Grande.
Yeah, the entire episode of Raw tonight was just jam-packed from beginning to end. And to kick things off with the 26-minute promo, and honestly, it didn't really feel like 26 minutes, or at least to me. Kind of had a bit of everything, as you kind of alluded to. CM Punk celebrating. I thought the title swing was a fun moment as well. And then Logan Paul coming back, kind of answering the call. Like him or not, that dude has some heat. Even if it is go away heat, at a certain point, heat is heat, I think. And uh, yeah, it's I really don't know the dynamic that Logan Paul is playing. A bit more on that later, but you could kind of see from this promo that he was, once he had gotten out of the ring, he was kind of fighting with himself, thinking internally, what should I do? But obviously that didn't play out well with eating that tsunami from Bronson Reed. But certainly lots going on with that World Heavyweight title picture. Right on the heels of Saturday Night Main Event. No rest for the weary as it goes. The 75 care match was good as well. I thought, interesting to make Nikki Bella lose again. And I think it's kind of conflicting. I think one, it's good that she's putting over talent, and obviously that the Judgment Day, who don't get a ton of wins but have started getting a few more lately. Um, Roxanne and Raquel look great as well, and I feel like with Nikki losing is probably going towards some kind of heel turn. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what it feels like to me. But yeah, this was a great match, and just kind of spoiler alert, I thought every single match tonight delivered. Some better than others, obviously, but yeah, this was great and hard hitting too. Each of the women in this match took some sort of bump, and it was pretty nasty at points. But great contest here, and glad to see Roxy get another win under her belt as well. Very much looking forward to that Raquel Stephanie Vaquer match. I believe they announced for next week. The Penta El Grande Americano match was good as well. Obviously, the interferences from Bravo and Rio, I think, could have done with a little less of that, but obviously, that's just the nature of the beast at the time. But yeah, this one got some time too, and of course Penta looks great as always, as does El Grande Americano. For Penta to kind of get the best of all three of these guys, get the win, and then kind of get out of the ring unscathed is pretty impressive for Penta. Unfortunately, it feels like several other members of the roster currently. It's just like where can he go from here? It feels like he's doing everything correctly, but there's not much more you can do in terms of where do you put him? You can't put a title on him, or at least you haven't yet. And yeah, similar to a few other guys on the roster. But yeah, excellent first half of Raw, and yeah, it doesn't stop there.
No, it certainly doesn't stop there because we do have a second half still to discuss with a fair few things going on. We're going to start off with Dominic Mysterio, who would get into the ring and basically cut a promo, essentially telling people to bow down to the king of the luchadors. He says he's the greatest intercontinental and AAA mega champion of all time, and says that nobody can stop him, from being anything less than that. We would then have a return from Rey Mysterio, obviously the father of Dominic Mysterio. He would come on down to the ring, and he would say that he needs to draw a line whenever Dom says that he's the king of the luchadors. It basically is insulting for Rey towards his family and blood. And Rey would start to reference names like El Santo, Blue Demon, and Eddie Guerrero, basically asking if he thinks that, if he's actually better than all of those names. Dom would respond back, basically telling Rey to keep his father's name out of his mouth before saying that he's better than all of them. There's no question about it. He also says that he's better than Rey Mysterio himself. Dom would then say that Rey is only here to he's only come back to cash in because he made the Mysterio name relevant once again. So Rey coming back to basically get some clout from what Dom's achieved in his recent success. He tells Rey to get out of the ring before Rey then says that as long as he's around, Dom will never be the king of the luchadors. He also says that the ring will never be his and that he won't be the greatest Mysterio as far as he's concerned. A fight breaks out between the two men before Rey hits a 619. That results in Dominic Mysterio escaping before he can have any inflicted damage being further put upon him. Rey Mysterio stands tall at the end of the segment, but this was a really cool spot. I like this one. I think we haven't had Rey and Dom for quite a while now. We've obviously had little bits of links here and there. We're back recently when Dom won the AAA Mega Championship. Rey was there for that moment and actually had to put the title around his waist doing so as well. But yeah, since then we haven't really seen an awful lot about Rey Mysterio. Obviously, he's been out injured for a long time. So yeah, great to have him back in. Shoot him straight in with Dominic Mysterio. Absolutely fantastic idea. I am seated for this feud. I can't wait to see what happens, and I have a feeling it could even be potentially for the Mega Championship. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I did put a smile on my face seeing Rey come back down. It was a bit of a cool moment, and yeah, interested to see how this one does sort of play out. Before we go into our next match of the show, Becky Lynch would come on down just randomly, sort of out of nowhere, and just basically get straight up onto the announce table. She would cut a promo, a pretty quick one here, basically saying that she's going through a lot at the moment. The Vision just going as crazy as they have done recently. Seth being injured now, being out of action, and also how she's dealing with a crooked referee that's holding her down. She's got a lot on her plate, Becky. She would say how Maxine Dupree is lucky and how she won't shut up about surviving Becky Lynch so far in those couple of matches that they've had recently. Becky issues a warning to Maxine Dupree that the next time that she steps in the ring with her, it won't just be the biggest opportunity of her career, but it will also be the last opportunity. So, very aggressive sort of promo here from Becky Lynch, and she sort of storms off. She starts making her way up the ramp, and then we get the Kabuki Warriors coming on down, making their entrance for their upcoming tag team match. That would see a bit of a stare down between especially Asuka and Becky Lynch here. Kari sort of almost like watching on, seeing what exactly the dynamic is here between the two ladies. And then Becky eventually just sort of circles around Asuka and then heads to the back. So yeah, quite interesting, that little encounter between the two women there. I'm not entirely sure what they're sort of alluding to there, but could be kind of cool. I guess we'll see what happens down the line with that one. But that transitions nicely into our next match, which is the Kabuki Warriors. They are taking on the team of Bailey and Lara Valkyria, and the winners of this match then would be Kabuki Warriors via submission. Bailey ends up dealing with Kairi Sane. She sort of like sends her crashing to ringside on the apron in the Kabuki Warriors corner. But this sort of allows Asuka to take advantage. She shoves Lara Valkyria into Bailey, which sends her crashing down onto the ringside floor. And a couple of moments later, Lyra gets caught in the Asuka lock and has no choice but to tap out to the Empress. So, yeah, Kabuki Warriors getting a win here. This is a pretty fun tag team matchup. I really enjoyed this one. Just generally speaking, just had a lot going on, and thought the dynamic between the two teams was great. The match flowed nicely. And, yeah, both teams worked really well together, which is always great to see. Kabuki Warriors, though, they look to sort of add insult to injury at the end, and they are almost sizing up Lara Valkyria. They haven't quite done anything, but they're sort of like waiting for an opportunity to strike at her. Lara's like a deer in headlights at this point, has absolutely no options available here. And then we suddenly get the entrance of both Charlotte and Alexa Bliss, the women's tag team champions. They come down to the ring and scare off both Asuka and Kairi before then posing with their titles, basically saying, you know, you want these, come get them, basically. So, yeah, that was a nice little segment there. That would then be the end of that particular part. We go into our next match, which is also another tag team contest. This is for the World Tag Team titles and a rematch from a few weeks ago when AJ Styles and Dragon Lee defeated the Judgment Day for those World Tag Team titles. This is Finn Balor and JD McDonough's opportunity to try and get them back. And the match seemed to be going quite well for them at one point, because Dominic Mysterio has been convinced to be at ringside for this one by Roxanne Perez earlier in the evening. He's there to basically try and help out, and to be fair to him, he does try and help out pretty well. Gets to a point where he gets up on the apron as AJ is looking for a cover, but obviously doesn't happen. The referee's distracted. Things get turned around, but it doesn't quite go too well because Finn Balor tries to capitalize and fails to do so. We then get to a point where sort of like tired of the interferences here, Sheamus comes on down to cancel out Dominic Mysterio. The distraction results in Finn hitting AJ with a shillelagh, and that almost very nearly crowns new tag team champions. But just for Dragon Lee, he comes back in and makes a miraculous last-second save, and that keeps the matchup flowing. Later on, we have Sheamus taking out Dominic Mysterio, which leads to AJ Styles hitting a Stars Clash on McDonough, and that'll be enough to get the victory. So potentially, what I got from this one, maybe Sheamus looking to stick with the Judgment Day situation. We saw him last week with like Finn Balor, perhaps, like more than JD, I guess, in that contest. But in this one particularly here, I don't know. I got a sense that maybe Sheamus wants the Intercontinental Championship just because of the way that he dealt with Dominic Mysterio. I don't know. Maybe that's what I got. So you don't want to be Dom right now, do you? Having Rey Mysterio and Sheamus both coming after you. That's quite the quite a dangerous couple of guys there. So yeah, definitely interesting there. Looking to see how that one develops. But this is a pretty fun tag team match. I thought all four men pretty killed it, to be fair. There were a couple of so close moments, some really tense spots. And yeah, just had a great time watching it. I thought it was fantastic. And then we do get another tag team match for our main event. So earlier in the night, as we've gone through already, type thing, with CM Punk and The Vision, we get Jey Uso as Punk's tag team partner. He would join up for this particular contest. This match was okay. It wasn't very long. I want to say it was probably only about 7 or 8 minutes, maybe a little longer than that if I had to take a stab. But yeah, either way, regardless, though, not a bad match up until that point, but nothing spectacular or special. It gets to a stage where all four men are on the outside just brawling with each other, and then a double countout is called after the referee hits the count of 10. The fight continues post-match, though. Braun and Bronson taking out Punk, and then Jay as well. They hit a spear and a tsunami on Jey Uso. And then we see CM Punk get back into the ring with a steel chair, very much like how he did earlier on in the show in that opening segment. We then would get Logan Paul come into the ring, and he was seemingly becoming in sort of backup CM Punk. He's standing alongside him, facing up against the Vision. But as he's sort of preparing his brass knuckles, I think everyone's starting to realize what's about to happen here. Logan Paul, you can't trust him. He then delivers those brass knuckles straight to the face of CM Punk, knocking him down onto the canvas, and then has a bit of a stare down with all three members of the Vision here, Heyman, Breaker, and Reed, and takes his brass knuckles off. Maybe some sort of like gift, perhaps, to Paul Heyman, perhaps, maybe, and proceeds to give him the brass knuckles, and that'll be the end of the show. So yeah, Nick, we had a pretty hectic first half, pretty hectic second half, lots of stuff going on here. including 3 tag team matches, so a very tag central second half, but also a return in Rey Mysterio going 1-on-1 with Dominic Mysterio there in that maybe that start of that new feud that we're getting. So I'm keen for that one. What do you make of that situation? What about wins for Asuka and Kairi Sane and the Kabuki Warriors with the sort of impending sort of explosion with Charlotte and Alexa Bliss coming up soon, and then AJ Styles, Dragon Lee retaining their tag team championships before Logan Paul does what we probably all expected him to do and stayed heel. What did you think of our second half?
Yeah, I thought the Dominic Mysterio segment was great. Obviously, as you kind of mentioned, just happy to see Rey Mysterio back. I don't think you could do any wrong with the Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio feud. Um, One thing I will say though, the Eddie getting mentioned there for a huge pop, and Dom referring to him as his father. Um, I think this one's going to be a tough one to book because obviously Dom is the heel, kind of, but not really. And I think if Ray plays it too safe, I think that could really kind of turn on its head. So I think WWE will have to be careful how they book this one, but eventually got Ray cheered with the insults to Eddie, but it takes a lot to get Dom booed at this point. So they'll have to be careful with that one. But regardless, I am looking forward to that, kind of rehashing that rivalry. They'll just have to do something a little different than they did last time, obviously. But obviously, Dom is at a much, much bigger and better place than he was last time. So, yeah, looking forward to that and seeing where they take that from there. Yeah, they're returning. I guess you call it a return. Been gone for a couple weeks. Hadn't seen her since she lost to Maxine. But yeah, that Becky Lynch promo was incredible. She's nailing it as a heel, and yeah, more from her. I think eventually, I think whenever Maxine gets her match that she's owed, and then I think AJ Lee, whenever she decides to come back, we'll probably see more of her at that point. But just a nice little reminder that she is still around and killing it on the mic per usual. The Kabuki Warriors and Bailey and Lyra match. Yeah, another good match. Yeah, and like you said, very tag centric. This episode of Raw would even make Teddy Long blush a bit. And yeah, the Oscar lock getting a win. We don't see that very often anymore, especially getting that over Lyra. I think that was a kind of a statement there. And then basically, I guess treating this as a number one contender because shortly after they did announce that the Kabuki Warriors would get a shot at Charlotte and Alexa on next week's Raw. So yeah, that should be a good contest. And clearly, we've been building up the Kabuki Warriors. And during this whole match, I'm sitting here thinking I alluded to it I think a couple weeks ago, but sneakily WWE has been building up this women's tag division. We have the two teams here, Charlotte and Alexa, and the Judgment Day. All of a sudden, we have four really good teams in that tag division. So I'm happy that's being paid attention to finally. And the Judgment Day Dragon Lee AJ Styles match for that World Tag Team Championship. Yeah, this again, yet again, another good, really good match. This is probably match of the night for me. As you allude to, Dom being down there with that Shillelagh and Sheamus coming to kind of aid, maybe not so much aid, but just kind of get in the way of Dom more so probably. But yeah, I think Sheamus needs to get that IC title before he retires. So I kind of think he'll probably go after Dom as well. Maybe Ray will kind of help that, or all three of them too. I'm okay with that as well. But yeah, this match was great. Obviously, AJ Styles getting the win for their team with that Styles Clash. Yeah, I don't see them losing that title those titles anytime soon. But yeah, this was definitely the match of the night for me. It was a ton of fun. And then before we get into that main event, we did get that last time is now tournament announcement for the first four competitors to take place on next week's Raw as well. Jam-packed episode of Raw next week, it seems like. But we have Rusev and Damian Priest in one, and then Shinsuke Nakamura and Sheamus in the other. So a couple of good contests that should be. And then announcing that Nick Aldis will announce two more matches this Friday. the main event with Jey Uso and CM Punk and the Vision, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. Yeah, this, like you said, wasn't very long, but it was interesting that they had that segment earlier, kind of build up to have Jay and Punk tag after their championship match over the weekend. Interesting decision. Feels like they kind of paused the Jay heel turn for now. Felt like they were laying pretty heavily into that, but now he's kind of acting like he's not, or as not acting like little Roman as they put it. But yeah, this wasn't long enough. But again, with the Vision being in the main event once again, it was a nice little break we had from that. But with the Vision being in there, I think you do have to do something a little different to make sure that it stays fresh. But yeah, Logan Paul coming in there, using those brass knuckles on CM Punk. Like I said, like I kind of alluded to earlier, I don't know if he is kind of flirting with being a heel and a face, or if he is just thinking about trying to join the Vision, or if he's just showing that trying to get some alliances on the heel side. But obviously with the ending, clearly thinking more heel, but definitely seemed like he fought with it throughout the night, or at least that's the impression he gave off. But like I said, I have no issues with Logan Paul. I know a lot of people aren't too fond of him. But I think he's pretty good on the mic and very good in the ring. So I would like more consistency from him. But in terms of him being there and involved in that storyline, I think it should be interesting going forward. And obviously that storyline of him giving those brass knuckles to Paul Heyman, I find that pretty intriguing. So yeah, I'll have to see where they go from there. But yeah, as a whole, Raw, this episode was a ton of fun. Tons of good matches, returns, surprises, a few twists and turns as well, and setting up for a really good Raw next week as well. So I don't know if it's coming off that horrific SmackDown we had last week that outside of the U.S. title match just didn't really have anything noteworthy. So maybe it's just comparatively speaking, but Raw just seems to be killing it lately. And yeah, this one was no exception. I gave this one a 9 out of 10. Just a ton of fun, and did a great job of building storylines going forward.
Yeah, it definitely gives us some new fruit to sort of ponder over here, because with Rey Mysterio coming back in, obviously this is a completely new dynamic with him and Dominic Mysterio. Sheamus sort of like continuing sort of like maybe be a bit more of a thorn on the side of Judgment Day. I quite like that side of him. Logan Paul coming back in, obviously, playing his part in that main event situation there. Seemingly now siding with the Vision here for whatever reason. Maybe that's War Games, maybe it's not. Obviously, we can look forward for that as well. Raquel Rodriguez being a title opportunity. Just this show, like you said, it had a lot that we can sort of take from this, and we can sort of like look forward and think, oh, okay, well, things are developing quite rapidly all of a sudden. So, yeah, quite a nice injection of pace, quite a nice change, and some things to really sort of like ponder over and think, just think of generally how things are going to go down coming off the back of this one. So, yeah, I think if you can get a show that makes you think about what's coming up next, I think that's probably kind of a good thing, depending on obviously the situation. I think this one was a good thing. So yeah, in my opinion, I thought this was a pretty good show as well. I thought it was pretty solid. I gave this one an 8.5 out of 10. Just yeah, probably my highest weekly show in a long time. I thought this was a really good episode of Raw. There are a couple of things that I think I'd like to see improve, but just generally speaking, just don't want to be too critical of that, because there's a lot going on here and there's a lot of content. So naturally speaking, you want lots of content. So yeah, I don't really have anything negative to say, to be honest with it. But 8.5 I think is pretty damn solid, and the best weekly show for in my opinion, in quite some time, especially on Monday Night Raw as well. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. But for now, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in to The Push with Nick and KP. If you agree or disagree with anything that we've said here today, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are on Raw, the general landscape of WWE right now, or anything else that you'd like to sort of like pick up on and let us know about. We'd love to hear it. If you enjoyed this one, then please hit a like on our video, subscribe to our channel, and keep up with future releases coming up very, very soon on this very busy channel. But yeah, we absolutely love what we do here, and just getting everything out as much as we can. So that's what we do. But that has been The Push with Nick and KP with this Raw recap. We'll see you all next time. Take it easy, and goodbye for now.